Gin charms the inactive, the desperate and crazy of either sex, and makes the starving sot behold his rags and nakedness with stupid indolence. It is a fiery lake that sets the brain in flame, burns up the entrails and scorches every part within, and, at the same time, a lethe of oblivion in which the wretch, immersed, drowns. Social philosopher Bernard Mandeville wrote this most unflattering account on the effects of gin in his 1714 political study entitled The Fable of the Bees, or Private Vices, Public Benefits. Mandeville held many an opinion on how private vice influenced society, but what was it of this most public of vices, the excessive indulgence in mother gin, that compelled him to pen such a damning account of our most beloved tipple? If we were to hitch a ride with our esteemed friend Mr. Wells on his glorious time machine and set our date and location to 16th century Northern Europe, we might arrive to discover that the juniper berry was still riding a wave of medicinal popularity for apparently successfully treating the Black Death some 200 years earlier. Equally popular was Ginerally, a triple malted spirit of Belgium-Dutch origin which used the juniper berry and other tasty herbs to make the somewhat crude distillate of the time a little bit more palatable to the populace. Also at this time, the Dutch were being, well, rather Dutch, and were in the throes of asserting their independence from Spain in the 80 Years' War. During this rather lengthy fight for independence, the Dutch East India Trading Company was becoming quite the superpower, and what was their employees' faithful travelling companion? None other than the beloved Ginerally. Additionally, with an almost complete monopoly on the spice routes of the day, the creative Dutch distillers had access to a fabulous array of exotic botanicals with which to experiment, and over the decades, Ginerally became quite the sophisticated spirit. Meanwhile, in England, Queen Elizabeth I wasn't so fond of the Spanish either, and so in 1585 sent the Earl of Leicester and around 6,000 troops to help the Dutch in their struggle for independence. The English soon noted that their Dutch allies took a nip of spirit before entering the battlefield, to gift them a little shot of Dutch courage, as it were. With this observation, so began the gradual introduction of Ginerally to English society. But even with its complex flavours and touted medicinal benefits, Ginerally was by no means an instant hit in England, and brandy and beer was still the tipple of choice for many years. This culture changed, however, in 1688 when the Protestant Dutchman William III of Orange overthrew Catholic King James II of England in the Glorious Revolution. William was a proud Protestant and wasn't too keen on Catholic France, so in an attempt to undermine their economy, he severely limited the import of their brandy. Yes, indeed, friends, some trade tactics will never change. With these new trade restrictions came a vigorous patriotic promotion of locally produced spirits to support the nation's grain farmers. The population responded with gusto, and England soon became a nation where drinking spirits was popular across all social demographics. Tally-ho! And so, dear friends, I imagine you are here with me today because you, as I, do rather enjoy gin. But I wonder whether you enjoy it as much as the general populace of 18th century London, because let me just say, they were rather enamoured with the stuff. It is again our friend Mandeville who introduces us to the first appearance of the word gin on the printed page. The infamous liquor, the name of which derived from the juniper berries in Dutch, is now, by frequent use, from a word of middling length shrunk into a monosyllable, intoxicating gin. With the new patriotic Protestant promotion of locally distilled spirits came a new Distilling Act announced by William in 1690. Citizens could now proudly distill their own homemade concoctions simply by posting a notice, waiting 10 days, and then getting straight to it. The Distilling Act itself specified no regulations, no licensing costs, and definitely no quality standards. Unsurprisingly, the production of spirits increased quite dramatically. It is thought that the gins of the era were up to double the strength of our modern counterparts and created with water likely contaminated with raw sewage and adulterated with sulfuric acid or turpentine or maybe lime oil. It is also speculated that they may have tasted more akin to rubbing alcohol than the divine drop that we enjoy today. Affordability and ease of production meant the market exploded and gin became available in street markets, in grocers, chandlers, barbers, and no doubt brothels, and the health-giving properties of gin were touted in ballads and poems. Gin will provide you strength throughout the day, it will cure all your various ailments, and restore your libido, thus making you a much better spouse. For the first time, women were also attracted to drinking, with the vision of sipping gin daintily from a lovely cup seemed to be rather in vogue and stylish. Gin was fast becoming an entrenched part of Britain's cultural identity. Fondly named Mother Gin, she was seen as a figure to help fire up the troops at war, support the farmers and rouse a nation to glory. She was rather much like Britannia really, but just a tad more boozy.